Time now for a look at the day's top business stories. And for that, I'm joined here in the studio by France 24's business editor, Brian Quinn. Brian, you're starting in the United States, where the former CEOs of two failed banks testified before Congress on Monday.
Well, Aaron, as we recall, Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank of New York were both seized by regulators and shut down in March amid bank runs by panicked depositors. Those collapses setting off a crisis in U.S. regional banks. On Monday, former SVB CEO Greg Becker and Signature's former chairman Scott Shea were in the hot seat before the U.S. Senate Banking Committee under fire from lawmakers from both sides of the aisle. The executives largely avoided taking any responsibility for their bank's failures. Instead, they blamed a host of external factors, including the government, first for sparking high inflation via its COVID recovery policies, then for hiking interest rates that caused the bank's existing bond portfolios to lose value. They also blamed social media for enabling panic to quickly spread among depositors. Senators, though, sharply critical, with one calling SVB's failure to hedge against rising interest rates, quote, bone deep to the marrow stupid. The executives declined to commit to returning any of their millions of dollars in pay packages as lawmakers accused them of failing to take responsibility.
The simplest explanation is best. It is first and foremost the bankers' fault that the banks crashed. We know that federal and state banking officials repeatedly told managers and directors of your banks where there were problems, big problems, the kind of problems you can't ignore, the kind you have to start fixing right away. Bank executives didn't listen. That's a well-documented fact.
Well, next, a former Apple engineer has been charged with stealing secret self-driving car technology from the company before fleeing to China. U.S. prosecutors say Weibo Wang downloaded thousands of files, including source code for Apple's autonomous vehicle software, as well as hardware designs, taking them with him when he left Apple in 2018 to work for a self-driving car firm based in China. Wang fled California for Guangzhou shortly after his home was searched by U.S. investigators in 2018. He's now the third Apple employee to be charged with theft of trade secrets in relation to China. The latest indictment comes amid a crackdown by the U.S. Justice Department on the illegal flow of sensitive technology to foreign adversaries.
So let me be clear. We are committed to doing all we can to prevent these advanced tools from falling into the hands of foreign adversaries, who wield them in ways that threaten not only our nation's security, but democratic values everywhere.
Let's get a check on the day's trading action now. Asian indexes mixed on Wednesday as investors take in economic data from around the region. The Nikkei in Tokyo gaining nearly 0.8%, with Japanese shares at their highest level since 1990, as new data shows the country's GDP growing at a better than expected 1.6% annual rate, that on the back of a recovery in household spending. Chinese indexes, though, losing ground as growth in home prices slows. Hong Kong down more than a full percent ahead of the close. Well, here in France, the government is planning huge tax credits for environmentally friendly investments. The subsidies are part of a new bill aimed at greening the country's industrial sector, as France becomes the first European country to take advantage of loosening EU restrictions on state aid in response to tax breaks on green investments in the U.S. Yinka Oyetara reports.
The goal is ambitious, cutting France's CO2 emissions by 40% by 2030, compared with 1990 levels. For France's manufacturing industry, which accounts for 18% of the country's carbon emissions, the shift won't be easy. This cement factory in the western city of Nantes is already taking steps towards becoming greener. It's using less energy-consuming techniques.
We already manufacture using cooler temperatures as well as with solar panels to reduce our carbon footprint.
Inside the factory, the cement is made using recyclable materials, a method that massively cuts back on CO2 emissions. But that's not without cost. The price for manufacturing has shot up by up to 40%. The manager says the company is happy to foot the bill.
The extra costs don't frighten companies or individuals because they want to be involved in the ecological transition and want to use cement with a lower carbon footprint.
The government is demanding for more to be done. Its new green industry bill will give 5.6 billion euros towards decarbonising the most polluting factories by 2030. Another one of the law's aims is to attract more green investments by using subsidies. The government says it wants the production of wind turbines, heat pumps, solar panels and batteries ramped up on French soil. But experts say all these steps won't be enough to hit carbon neutrality by 2050.
Total decarbonisation needs to happen in the transport sector. It also needs to happen in aviation and agriculture.
According to the Ministry of Economy, the bill will rid France of 41 million tonnes of CO2 by 2030. That's equivalent to just 1% of the country's carbon footprint.
And finally, for business, a somewhat less cordial interaction with the food production industry is set to take place at the French Finance Ministry Wednesday as the government pushes the sector to lower prices for consumers faced with high food inflation. Cabinet members, including Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire, facing off with representatives for food giants like Danone and Coca-Cola, pushing them to renegotiate supermarket supply contracts. Food prices in France are up an annual 15% as of April. And Aaron, I know I have personally noticed that. I don't know about you.
You and I both, Brian Quinn with Business. Thank you very much.